Yeah.
Okay. Hi. Can you hear me? Is it working? Yeah, cool. It's good to be here today. This is my 5th time in Krakow, so I like the place. As you can tell, I have an American accent, and that's because I used to live in the US almost 17 years ago. But now I live in Paris, so I'm French. Sorry for that. I know we caused a lot of problems. You want me to talk like this? Okay. Right. Okay, so this is a great audience for this talk because Chris showed me the stats, and if his stats are correct, then over 80% of you are from companies with less than 20 people. So this is perfect timing for this talk because this is very important for you, okay? Believe me. Right, besides American and being French, I worked for some internet companies. I'll also tell you how old I am. How many people remember Netscape? You see, some of you don't. That's how old I am. So I started at Netscape in Silicon Valley way back when some of you were being fed by your moms. And I started doing recruiting. I worked for Netscape for a couple of years, and then I got a great opportunity to move to Paris. Worked for an American software company for a couple of years, 2001, if you remember, if you were there, boom. Everything exploded in a bad way. So I started learning French and eating baguettes and things like that. Got a great call in 2003 from Google. They asked me if I wanted to work for them. Who says no? So I became the first recruiter for Google in Europe in 2003. Went on to work for Google for almost 7 years. And during that period of time, managed the entire recruitment organization for Google in Europe. We hired over 4,000 people in that span of time. So I have some recruitment experience, some internet technology experience, but what I'm really excited about is this culture stuff because I think it's super important. So let's go. And I don't know, is that light really necessary? Because all my slides are gonna really suck. Because I don't know if you can tell what this is. You see what it is? It's a cemetery, right? So I have some really bad news. Most of you, well, all of you are going to end up there someday. It's just the fact of life. But many of your startups are going to end up there, and that's just the way it is, right? I mean, most startups don't succeed, and we all know that. We all have to be realistic. But let's not stay negative for too long. What most of you want to achieve is this, right? This is a very good-looking unicorn, right? And that's what you're dreaming about at night when you're at home. But to become, yeah, take all the pictures you want, tweet, get excited about the unicorn. So the thing is, to become that unicorn, you need to spend a lot of time and a lot of energy and put a lot of effort into developing your culture. So this slide with a lot of logos, can anybody figure out what all of these companies have in common?
They're European companies.
They're European companies, that is correct. Anything else? Okay, well, I'll tell you. They all won Europas. So the TechCrunch Startup Awards, they all won awards, right? So if you think these are award-winning startups in Europe, why not go look at how they talk about culture? Because they must have some really good culture, right? Or else how did they win the awards? So I did this. So ZenMate is one of the companies, okay? And I was very happy that when you click on their About page or Jobs page, the first thing you see is ZenMate culture, right? Unfortunately, when you read it, it's not that exciting. It's kind of standard, right? It's nothing too special. BlaBlaCar. Do you know those guys? Super fast growing, right? Exciting startup. If you look at the values, they're kind of blah, blah, right? I mean, a lot of people have this stuff, right? Trust, we're committed, we're powered by people, blah, blah, blah. This one, I forget what it is, but look at it. We have small teams, we have amazing colleagues, you can make an impact, you can have fun. Which one of your companies doesn't say that, right? You're all saying that, I think, I hope, right? You don't say we have big giant teams where you can't make an impact and you're going to be bored to death, right? So, you know, this could be any company, it could be any of your companies. This is another winner, right? There's a place for you. You can learn and grow and share your ideas. Okay, you get the point, right? This is terribly boring, right? And that, by the way, is SoundCloud. Okay, again, they're all the same. How can all these companies have the same culture? How can they differentiate themselves so people really are interested in working there? Okay? So this is the problem, right? People don't get it. People don't understand your culture. And it's not their fault because they don't work for your company. So how could they get your culture? You have to do something about it. You have to share with them very visually, very physically, what that culture is in your company that makes it so special. Okay? So let's look at some good stuff. Buffer. How many people know Buffer? Okay? If you don't, you should. Because Buffer, if you read the little line down there, back when they were only 7 people, spent a massive amount of time talking about values and culture and what they wanted their company to be and what they wanted people to think of their company, right? How many people here with companies under 20 people have spent time regularly talking about values and culture? Raise your hand. Hi. Okay, I see 3 hands, 4. Okay, there's 80 people here. Okay? I'm not yelling at you. I'm not going to smack you. But think about it, right? Think about it. These guys talked about it, and they put together this. Now look at this list, okay? Look at the list compared to the 5 or 6 other slides we just saw. It stands out, right? It's different. You actually feel something. It doesn't just say, you're going to come to Buffer and have fun. You're going to contribute. You're going to work with small teams, right? I mean, those are real, solid points that they're talking about. And they live that, right? If you go to the Buffer blog and you read stuff about the company, you see that this isn't just words, but they're putting it all into action, right? It's one of the few companies where you'll see number 2 is transparency, right? Ola mentioned something about transparency in her talk, right? A lot of people talk about transparency, but what do you do to show people that you really are transparent? Well, Buffer posted all of their employees' salaries online. That's pretty transparent. Right? So if you say something, then you have to follow it up and you have to do it. Okay? Take a look at another one. This is HubSpot. How many people know HubSpot? Okay? I'll tell you a little secret. I don't. But it doesn't matter. Okay? Because I happen to think that what they've written here is really, really cool. And it actually makes me interested and excited to learn more about it. Right? So again, you look at those bullet points. And basically what I'm doing with this presentation is giving you a massive amount of homework. So you should either be taking pictures or writing down all of these names and going and looking at it later. So HubSpot, another excellent example. You see the logo in the corner, Netflix. How many people have seen it's called the culture deck or whatever it is on SlideShare for Netflix? How many people have seen it? Okay, if you don't do anything else after I talk to you today, go look at that. Okay? That's the only thing you should do. It's 120 or 130 slides. Okay? But it's the best deck about company culture that you can see. Okay? They put a massive amount of time in it. Why I'm putting up this one slide, which by the way, I'll just give you a secret when you go look for it. There are 2 representations of this deck on SlideShare. You have to go to the old one to get this slide. Okay? Because it's not on the newer one. And this slide is beautiful for hiring, okay? Again, I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep referencing your talk because you were talking about hiring. When you're hiring people, you have to know what you want. And so many of us don't know what we really want. We just know that we need someone now because we have too much work to do, right? When the people come to the interview, you get a good feeling, feels good here, you're hired, right? But this is what makes the evaluation process work really, really well, by understanding exactly what you need. These are values, but also they're really a hiring checklist. If you look at every single point, and again, you can look at it later, it says you are this, you are this, you are this, you are this. So if you understand that for your company and what these people need to bring to the table, this is going to move you forward. Okay? So, now, you're depressed, right? I've just ruined your day. You have no culture, you're not working on it, you don't know what to do. Forget it. We're gonna get positive. We're gonna get better, okay? So, again, homework, okay? Go look at all this stuff, okay? I can't talk about it all day because I'll run out of time very fast. But all of these things, right? So you have Buffer, HubSpot, Netflix. Go look at Google. I mean, Google worked really, really hard on this stuff in the beginning, and obviously it worked out pretty well for them. And then there's the last one is called Ergo. It's pretty unknown. I'd be surprised if anybody in the room has ever heard of them. But they will be the next billion-dollar company in Europe. That's my bet anyway. The guys at Ergo worked for the past couple of years building the culture of the company and really thinking deeply about what they want. And their deck also is on SlideShare. Okay? So the bottom line is that, you know, people say that they don't have time. It first shows up in hiring, right? We don't have time. There's so many other things to do. And of course, you're right. You're doing a startup. You're doing 3 or 4 different jobs, each one of you. But if everybody says over and over and over again, and why you're all here today, that people are the #1 most important driver of success in a startup, then obviously you have to find the time to do it. You have to make the time to do it, right? So you have to make the time for this culture stuff so that you can bring people into your company and keep people into your company. Do you know that the Google founders and then the CEO, Eric Schmidt, spent every Sunday afternoon talking about the company? And not really the business, but the company, the vision of the company, the values of the company, the culture of the company. Every Sunday afternoon. What do you do on Sunday afternoon? And I'm not saying that you have to work 24/7, but if you want to get all this done and you want to get it right, you're probably going to have to spend a little more time, right? That's how serious they were about it, right? And that's why when you're outside of Google, you can still feel a lot of those values as a non-employee because they've worked so hard at making them very, very, very clear. So I'm not going to do a hiring presentation today, but obviously building this culture is going to massively assist in your hiring because the candidates will be able to identify, or better yet, not identify with your culture. If you have a really clear, visible culture, you'll be able to also filter out, without doing anything, people who don't fit in your company, which is also a huge benefit. Look at this quote, right? It basically says, it's the famous 10x engineer statistic that says the best engineers are 10x better than the worst, right? And you can go online and you can read a lot of what Joel Spolsky's wrote and other people about this phenomena. And I think the majority would say that this is true, right? So isn't that what you want? You want that 10x guy. You're shaking your head, so we can talk about that later. But you know, in order to do that, you have to invest, right? You have to invest the time and the energy to find these people and to seduce them to your company, right? A lot of recruitment is about seduction. And how do you attract them to your company so they become excited about it, right? Almost every single client I work for today wants candidates to walk in the door bleeding enthusiasm for the company and the product, right? It was the same for me at Google. It's been the same for me everywhere. The expectation of the company, the expectation of the startup is that me as a candidate, I walk in the door and I say, I love you guys. You're doing the most amazing thing. But how can you have that expectation? Because I don't know you, I don't know your company, I don't know the product, I don't work there. So think about that when you have this desire for people to fall in love with you right away. You have to create that, right? You have to build that. You have to work on that. More homework for you, okay? I don't like reading business books, okay? They bore me. I'd much rather read Game of Thrones or something like that. But if you want to read any books about hiring, then read these books, okay? The last one is not available yet. So I don't know why I'm promoting a book that I haven't read, but I know the guy. So I'm guessing that it will be good. But I have read the other two, and they're phenomenal books on hiring. And I think the first one in particular talks about hiring at all different types of businesses and industries and nonprofits and governments, but it follows the same theme of basically how do you spot brilliance. And another thing that I find very, very difficult working with startups is that most startups want people who have a very, very specific experience, right? So I think a lot of you here are doing SaaS, right? right? I work with another VC doing SaaS. And every SaaS startup says, I need a marketing guy that's done SaaS. I need a product guy that's done SaaS. Whatever it is, right? Well, do you think there's just so many of these SaaS people around that that's no problem? They're not, right? Find me the product guy in Krakow that does SaaS. I'll pay you 5,000 euros, okay? No, but seriously, we have to think a little bit differently about what we're looking for in terms of who can really add value to our companies. And is the experience the most important, or is the intelligence the most important, right? And can hiring somebody super intelligent figure out what you need them to figure out, or learn what you need them to learn? So after hiring, you've got the people inside, and a big part of your culture is how you manage the people, how you treat the people. We had a great talk just by Thor about managing people, essentially, right? But again, you have to invest in this. How many people in the room have one-to-one meetings on a weekly or every other week basis with their employees? Okay, a little bit better than the culture discussion, but not great either, right? You owe that to your people, right? Everyone says they hate meetings, right? Who doesn't hate meetings? One person, two, three, okay. Most people hate meetings, right? It's normal because most meetings suck, right? Most meetings you go, you're like, I don't want to be here, and then you leave and you say, that was useless, right? But what if you have constructive meetings, right? And when you have people working for you, or working with you, you owe it to that person to have a constructive meeting with them on a regular basis to talk to them about what they're doing, how you can help them, how to help them progress, how they can help the company progress. I mean, you owe that to them. You need to figure out how to have productive one-to-one meetings. You need to figure out how to have, productive team meetings, and how to manage these people, right? People want to be performance managed in a sense, in a constructive, in a productive way, because they will do better. You will help them do better. Okay? So I'm going to promote another tool. This is a startup. It's from Estonia. And this is a very simple yet terribly effective performance management tool. And the reason that I'm promoting it is because it's mostly based on the OKR system from Google. Of course, I spent a lot of time there, so I know it and I like it. But it's a very simple management tool that does a lot of things culturally for the company in terms of transparency, because you can ask everyone to contribute on a weekly basis, very quickly telling the accomplishments. Like Thor said, right, about this 10% rule, this is a perfect tool to implement that. Okay? You want something like this to keep going with the productivity of your people. Right. So now is the part of the presentation where I show you all of this fun culture stuff that everybody thinks is the culture, right? Because what's the first thing we think about when we think about culture is how are we going to feed the people, right? I was at Brainly yesterday here in Krakow, and it was just after lunch, and they were cleaning up the lunch. And one of the people said to me, yeah, we only have lunch once a week. You know, we can't give everybody free lunch every day or whatever. And they were telling me like they felt bad, like they felt guilty that they couldn't give people a free lunch. Like today, if you're a startup, you have to have free lunch, right? Or else your culture sucks. It's not about that, right? So the thing is you need to provide the culture for your employees that helps your employees succeed, okay? Now, I'm totally making this up. Well, this is real. This is Google in Zurich. Okay, so there is a slide there, and that's where the free lunch is. Okay, so in my head, I think you need to offer people things that will help them be productive and successful and collaborate and so on and so forth. So maybe at Google, it's really important in Zurich to get the engineers down to lunch fast. So that's why they put the slide, and that's why it makes sense, right? You know, people like to work in comfortable chairs, so why not? And have a nice view of New York. This is a massage room at Google. Maybe your people are totally stressed out, so you give them a massage, right? You're thinking I'm crazy now, right? This is my favorite room at Google in Zurich, which is this get a massage, listen to soft music, and watch fish. You know, so you're thinking, wait a second, my company has 5 people, we don't have any money, we eat noodles, you're telling me to put in an aquarium. Well, what I just want to say is this is not it, right? This is not the culture, right? That's Twitter and their free food. There's a pool table at Foursquare. But let me show you some things that are totally realistic, okay? Totally realistic and have a significant impact on your culture. So this is Facebook. Everybody knows Facebook. But what you might not know is that after a certain period of time, any engineer at Facebook can spend a month testing, experimenting on a different team to see if they would like to join that team as their next project. Okay? That's very open. That's very encouraging for engineers who want to get exposure to different projects. Okay? That's a big company doing something, but any company can offer this type of opportunity. Did you want to take a picture? This is another example of a similar thing at Dropbox, right? So every year at Dropbox, everybody stops doing what they're doing and they have the Hack Week where people work on all types of different projects, whether they be for things that might be good for the company or might be just of personal interest, but it gives people an opportunity to be creative and work on different things. You know that guy, it's Jeff Bezos. Again, from a cultural perspective, at Amazon in the beginning, the desks were made out of these used doors, right? And it was supposed to give the impression of frugality, right? One of the cultural aspects of Amazon is that it's not, it's not eccentric, right? They're a relatively cheap company in a sense. The funny thing about these desks that were supposed to give the impression of frugality was apparently they were extremely expensive. But it shows something, it gives a feeling of the company. These are t-shirts from, yeah, I forgot the company. It might be Palantir, but basically after every release, they make a new t-shirt and everybody who worked on the release gets a new t-shirt. You think, well, okay, t-shirts, but everybody loves t-shirts. It doesn't cost a lot of money and people are proud. Right? So people are proud of the fact that they worked on that release, and over time they become collector's items, right? Because the people who worked on the early releases are the most proud of having the first t-shirts, right? Easy stuff that you could do to build community and build this culture within the company. This guy is from, VMware. And VMware has a very strong philosophy about community engagement and charity. And so they have lots of programs in place where the employees can work with different associations and do charity, and they'll do matching donations and things like that. But whatever it is that you guys have spent your Sunday afternoons talking about in terms of what is our company and what do we want it to be, you can put that stuff in place. I love this idea. Any of you can do this. Okay, I'm forgetting the companies today, but this is a small company, and one of the things they do is that the last so there's a new hire, right? And the new hire comes to work, and whoever the person was that was hired just before that person is responsible for making the welcome package. Okay, so the second to last hire welcomes the new hire with a welcome package. Super easy to do, but very personal and very unique. Makes the person feel good, right? When you have somebody new coming to your startup, and I guarantee you if you're all less than 20 people, all of your startups are chaos, right? All of your office space is chaos. I walk in, I'm the new hire, there's probably nothing on the desk. Most of the time, right? I've experienced this at least myself. But how nice is it for somebody to spend a short amount of time to make sure things are set up for the first day with a little bit of a welcome? You feel good, right? You want that person to feel good when they come to your company, so they stay. This is an example from Wooga in Berlin, right? Anybody in the company can sign up. It's called 5 Minutes of Fame. And you sign up to talk about a technology or a process or some kind of marketing hack or whatever it is that you've been working on that you're proud of that you can share with the rest of the company. Super easy to do. They have it once a week or once every other week. Any of you can do that. Also at Wooga, weekly meetings, talk about transparency. All the weekly meetings for all the different groups are open to anyone. Right? So if you want to learn more about marketing or product or development, you can go to those meetings, right? So again, when you're talking about transparency and culture, how do you really live that? These guys live it. And finally, this is Google, and it's one of my favorite things that Google put together, which they called Googler to Googler, which is horrible. I hate the name Googler. I hate the name Googliness. I heard yesterday Googlitude. I think those names are very weird. But anyway, they put together this program where basically it's peer-to-peer training, okay? And they set up whatever system was necessary to do this, but anybody in the company could offer any kind of training to anyone else. And it was amazing because you saw all the common things like how to do a better presentation or how to get better at pivot tables on Excel. But then you also saw like salsa dancing and making foie gras, right? So, you know, how easy is that to put together? And the thing is that people learn stuff, people want to learn stuff, and also people want to share their knowledge, and you give them the platform and the opportunity to do that. Again, any of you can put that into place today. How many people have seen this? A few? Okay. So it's the Holsti Manifesto, another thing you can go look up online and read and get excited about. The reason that I show you this is because I think that this is passionate. A bunch of people sat around and said, what do we believe? What do we want to express in terms of our values? And they put this thing together. Create your own manifesto, right? Think about working towards a point where you can have a poster on the wall, right, that talks about who you are, but more so than that poster on the wall, that people who come into your office, they feel it, right? Because that's the mark of a successful culture. Not what's on the wall or on the coffee cup, but that the people come to your company and they feel right away that what you've said is really taking place, okay? So thanks very much. I hope I was in the time limit. And if questions or...
Yeah, thank you, David. We really trying to